All right, so the FDA could soon be reversing its policy banning gay men from donating blood. An advisory panel just last week said that blood testing has become more precise in the past 2 decades since the ban was put in place. But some restrictions would still stay in effect, like only allowing men to donate blood if they haven't had sex in more than a year. Joining us now are Damon Jacobs, a marriage and family therapist, and Dr. Devi Nampiamparampill from NYU. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Nice to see you.
Let's start with you, Dr. Devi. I mean, last month announced they're considering lifting this ban. Is that a good move, medically speaking?
I think it is. I mean, this ban started back in the early 80s. So that was at a time where we really didn't have the testing that we have now for HIV, to be able to test the blood. So at that time, what they had to do without that knowledge was figure out how can they protect potential recipients of blood. And they enacted the ban. But now a lot of different things have changed. And actually, the American Medical Association and the American Red Cross, they're all in favor of lifting this permanent lifetime ban.
But what about the time between infection and detection?
Exactly. A few things have changed. So in the past, back in the early 80s, it took like 6 months to find out if you actually had HIV, because you'd get tested, and even if you had a negative result, it's possible that you had the virus in your blood, but that it hadn't fully developed yet or fully spread.
In order a way that would show up.
Exactly.
Right.
So with our testing, we needed to test again in 6 months. Now, the testing has changed a lot since that time. So you could actually get tested and find a result or know for sure within a few weeks. I mean, it can be as short as 11 days, but just in terms of, the practical aspects of following up with doctors and stuff, it could be just up to a month to find out.
Okay, now Damon, let's hear from you for a minute. You've been stopped from giving blood in the past. Can you describe that experience for me?
Yes, I went to give blood in November of 1991, so I was only 20 years old at the time, and I had no idea that these restrictions had been in place. But the truth was, I was asked, are you a man? Had you had sex with another man since 1977? The answer was yes. It was always protected. It was always with condoms. I was HIV negative. But they took my name. They took my social security number. They said, do not try to give blood again.
Wow.
Yes.
What did you feel like?
It was very hurtful. I was very humiliated. I was very hurtful because saving lives is important to me. And it's something that's very important in my family. And it's a value that I hold dear. So in these last 23 years, I'm still HIV negative. I'm still healthy. I could have given blood 150 times if I had been allowed to do so. But I haven't.
But Dr. Devi, my question also becomes, how do you tell? When they're asking, are you gay or are you straight, is this just a self-reported answer? Because there's lots of men who consider themselves straight and engage in gay acts who are still, how do they determine
Exactly.
this?
So they actually ask you about whether you're a man that's had sex with men. So you don't necessarily have to be gay. You could have been somebody who experimented in the past or something else. And it's a self-reported questionnaire. So we want people to be truthful, and then they would answer.
But the same goes for this year-long, which is
exactly.
seemingly
I actually think the year-long also might be too long if you think about it in terms of the data, in terms of what your risk is. But regardless, a year-long ban is still better than a lifetime ban, because what we're weighing this against is the people who need blood, who are actually dying because they can't get it. So there are shortages in terms of blood because you can't hold on to blood for a long time outside of the body. So people actually can die, because they're not able to get the products they need. Now, that's not just the red blood cells that we usually think of when we think of blood, but it's a lot of different blood products like clotting factors and other things. So if you think about one person, they might donate blood not just once, but several times. So that's several different lives that you could save.
But Damon, how are your friends reacting in the gay community? I mean, do they think 1 year is that fair? Is that kind of the middle ground?
It is way too long. I think that's ridiculous. As you mentioned, we have the technology now to narrow down the window period to about 2 weeks. So why would I be forced to wait a year to not have sex in order to give blood when the heterosexual man can have sex with 100 women without a condom, and as long as he's not paying any of them, and as long as he doesn't think that they're HIV positive, he could walk in and give blood, and they'd be happy to take his blood. That's discrimination. And we are not happy. I'm not happy about that. We're not going to stand for that.
And it sounds like, although the medical advances, Dr. Devi, have happened, it sounds like some of these qualitative means of assessment really haven't caught up. Is that?
Well, that's true, of course, and it is a self-reported questionnaire, so people, they may not even realize if they've had a high-risk exposure. But I think it makes sense to look at people's actual behavior in terms of, has someone had sex with paid money, a prostitute, or other things that actually put them more at risk, and then base the restriction period on that rather than just, whether they have ever had sex with a man or things along those lines.
Damon Jacobs and Dr. Devi Nampiamparampill, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always our pleasure to have you with us. Thanks.